Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsey. If you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up or commenting below. If you want to see more of my videos, press the subscribe button and click on the bell for notifications. If you need any Stampin' Up! Products to make this card, you can visit my online store and the link is in the description box below. When you purchase Stampin' Up! Products through me, you can earn free products. Check out my current customer appreciation products on my blog, and the link is listed below in the description. Today I'd like to share with you another alternative card using the July 2021 The Adventure Begins Paper Pumpkin Kit. So this is my third alternative card, and if you're interested in seeing my other ones, you can check out my playlist and I'll link it up here in the top right corner. So this fun kit created 3 different cards, and there were enough supplies to make 4 of each card. And they were all this really fun trifold card. And so if you're interested in seeing me make these cards or checking out what else was in this kit, you can also click on the link in the top right corner to be taken to my unboxing video. So here are my other alternative cards that I made. This one is a fun pull tab. And then my first one was this clear card, which turned out to be just a really beautiful card as well. So again, you can check those out in the top right corner. Today, I have a fun Shadow Box card, and you can see here how it kind of folds flat to go into an envelope. And then when you take it out, it has this fun movement to it. And so let's go ahead and make this card. Don't miss next month's August 2021 Paper Pumpkin Kit. This kit has been designed by Stampin' Up's co-founder Shelley, and it's called the Hope Box, and it includes all the supplies you need to create 9 encouraging cards with coordinating envelopes. Make sure to subscribe by August 10th using the link below. So let's begin with some of the things you're going to need from the kit. So you're going to need the Camper card base, which includes this really fun bushy tree kind of pattern paper. You'll also need the tree and label die cut, as well as the larger tree die cut. And then you'll need some scratch paper for some stamping. So let's begin with our stamping. I've got a large ink pad of Garden Green and Granny Apple Green. Now the kit did come with a small Stampin' spot of Garden Green, but just to make things a little quicker and easier, I'm going to use the large ink spot. So let's start by stamping on our die cuts. So I'm going to actually remove this small tree from the label just with a pair of paper snips. And I'm going to stamp on both of these the design, the little line design for the trees. And I'm doing that in Garden Green ink. And for this small one, you just want to focus on the top half of the stamp. So you will want some scratch paper to stamp that on. So they're both going to end up looking something like that. And then we are going to stamp on some scratch paper one of the large trees. So I have the large tree image, and I'm just inking that up with Garden Green ink. I'm going to stamp that down. And then again, with that lines, I'm going to go ahead and add some texture to that tree. And then for our card, I also created some fun bushes, and I'm going to show you how I did that with this kind of random line image. So this is the image, as it has kind of all these little lines to it. And if you flip it over and place the lines on the clear block and the flat side out so that you're stamping on the flat side, it kind of creates this fun bush look. So I'm going to actually ink it up so you can see that it's all green all over. And I'm going to stamp this twice. So once in dark and then once in the second kind of lighter color. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the Granny Apple Green. First I'm going to clean it and then do that again with Granny Apple Green. So now I'm going to start it with the dark and then a light version of it as well. And then once I've cleaned it again, I can flip that over, and now I'm going to stamp the lines. So starting with the Granny Apple Green, I'm just going to then stamp those right inside that. And then I'm just going to go right to Garden Green and stamp those inside those bushes. Okay, so I'm not sure if that's what that stamp is for or not, but I think they look really cute and go really well with kind of the background images that have bushes and trees and such in them. And we're just going to use them down here to kind of decorate around our greeting. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these images and fussy cut them all out. All right, so I have gone ahead and cut those all out. And so now let's talk about the card base for this card. So you're going to need some basic white cardstock, and it's a little bit bigger than a normal size card base. So we do have 5.5 inches here on the short side, and then the length of our card needs to be 9.25 inches. And the reason for that is because we do have some extra cardstock where we've created this shadow box and then the pulling mechanism. So then once you have that size of card base, you're going to need to score 5 times at 1/2 inch intervals on each side. So let's go ahead and start at 1/2 inch. I'm actually going to rotate this. So we're going to start at 1/2 inch here. And then slide it down to 1 inch. And remember, we're scoring, so make sure to use your score blade and not your cut blade. Then we've got 1.5 inches and 2 inches and then 2.5 inches. So I've got 5 score lines stopping at the 2.5 inch. And so we're going to rotate and do the same thing on the other side. So 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and then 2.5 inches. So what we have here are we've got 5 score lines on each side and then a gap that is 4.25 inches in width. So now we're going to take each one of the sides and we're going to accordion fold. So you just want to bring them back and forth. Okay. And then you just want to make sure that they both fold into the center. So this top piece always folds into the center. Just like that. Okay, so now we've got our handles and our shadow box. So then to create this card, we need to remove the front flap and the inside flap. So let's go ahead and do the inside flap. We want it to just be a little bit shy of 4.25 inches. So it's about 4 3/16. That's where I'm cutting. And I'm going to start again in the center of my cardstock. So we had to do this for our alternative number 2 as well. You want to make sure you've got a nice sharp blade and you start on the inside whenever you have a fold, because it can get really tricky and be a little bit hard to cut that. So this is going to go at the back of our shadow box, and then here I'm going to just cut right along that score line, and it should be 4.25 inches exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and add this back piece just to the inside of our shadow box with a little adhesive, and that just should fit nicely along the back. So make sure the top and bottom match up. just like that. So then for the front, we're going to remove the extra cardstock around the camper. And we actually need to remove the camper from the front panel as well, since it's one of our elements that's in motion. Down here at the bottom, you'll notice that the wheel is kind of hidden by some of the grass. And this is totally a personal preference, but I do have that wheel kind of in my card here. And so I'm gonna cut that wheel out. So just come down here and follow that shape of the wheel right into the grass. There's like a very slight coloring where the wheel should be. Just kind of follow that circle all the way up into the camper. And then you do need to just trim it right here as well to remove it. So because I don't really want that wheel to have any green on it, I am going to use a black Stampin' Up! Watercolor pencil, and I'm just going to color in that green, and I'm going to change it to black. Now I don't know if this is going to work with any other color medium, like blends or Stampin' Write markers, but I do like how it's just a very subtle color change with the watercolor pencil. And I can do a little bit more going up the sides too to kind of blend it all together. So you can see how that looks. I'm just going to come down here and add a little more to that bottom. And we don't need it to be, like we want it to just be a little bit subtle. Like it just needs to be dark enough that we don't notice that it's green. Okay, so then for this piece, go ahead and remove that little piece on the right. And then we're going to cover up this section here with one of our bushes. So we don't really need to worry about that little dip. So now we're going to start with the placement of our items, especially the ones in the shadow box that move. So I'm going to begin by just placing this over the top so that I can kind of see where everything lines up and where it's going to be when it closes. So it's really important that I give everything enough space for it to close. So you're just going to bring all those in with no adhesive, just to kind of eyeball how much we're going to need. So this camper here, I want to kind of bring all the way over and up just a little bit. So you can see here that it's not touching the bottom. To attach these elements to our shadow box, we're going to use a 3/4 inch strip of window sheet. So this can just getting the measurement can be a little tricky. So we want to support this camper. So we want to have a lot of window sheet, and we also need it to go all the way to the edge of this folded accordion, okay? So I've got that lined up there. And then I've got my camper, and I'm just gonna cut this window sheet. So you're just kind of measuring where you want to place things and then eyeballing how much you're going to need. So this is about 3.5 inches in length of window sheet here. Okay, so there's that one. And then for my trees, they're the die cut trees, and they're gonna sit up higher, and they're actually attached to one another. So we can just kind of add a glue dot here. So it should be just a little bit lower than the large one. So you're going to kind of bring those two together like that. And then we want them to be near the edge here so that they're kind of more on one side. So when this is all folded together, so then I have my other piece of window sheet, same strip, just the other side. And I'm looking for maybe something that's about that long. So I'm just going to take my pair of paper snips and cut it. And this is about 2 to 2.25 inches in length. Okay, and just kind of double check that's where I want that to be. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of add our pieces to our window sheet. So you can use glue dots, which is what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to add them to the lower part, kind of lower middle area of my objects. So I have a couple glue dots here, and this piece is just going to get hidden behind the trees. And I want to make sure I don't have any adhesive showing, so that way it doesn't get stuck to the card while it's inside the envelope when it's all nice and flat. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that looks good, just like that. And then we'll do the same thing for our camper here. Just add some glue dots going right down the middle. Okay, so just kind of hide this behind that so everything's nice and straight. And then when that's closed, that looks good right there. Okay, so since everything is now put on their window sheets, I'm just going to lay everything out and open this up this time and make a mark on the inside here where they need to be attached. So I'm going to lay this out, and I want it attached about here. So I'm just going to take my pencil and make a mark where that should go. And then do the same here for this side. So about there, I think. Okay. So you see I made it inside this double valley here because that's going to be our handle. And so this is the side of our shadow box, and this is our handle, okay? So I've skipped one section and then made the mark on the inside of that section. So we can remove this for now and take some tear and tape. And this is a really good adhesive to use for when you're doing interactive cards. I'm going to add that tear and tape all the way down to the second panel from my back. So I've got one panel and then the second panel. We'll do that on both sides. So now I'm going to add my window sheet and my elements. This one I'm just going to place a little bit inside so that I'm not connecting my tree to the handle. Okay, so it's going to look like that. And then I'm going to take my camper and connect it to the left side about where my markings are. Just like that. And then I do want to add just a little more tear and tape over the window sheet strips, just to make sure that it's attached to both sides. Okay, and then another note is that when you add your window sheet strips, you want to just make sure everything is horizontal when you add them, so you don't want to add them at an angle. Okay, so then once everything's where you want it, you're just going to go ahead and close your handle over that window sheet. Okay, so this is your connecting sections 2 and 3 together to create your handles. Okay, so just one quick little change. I noticed when my camper was over my trees that I couldn't see this little blue tree. So I just moved it up a little bit higher on that tree and just pulled it off and added a couple more adhesive dots to hold that in place. Okay, so now when they kind of overlap, you can still see the top of that tree. So now we're going to add the front, and it's going to sit on this first flap that is kind of coming into the shadow box. And we're going to use tear and tape for this as well. So once you've got your tear and tape on there, you're going to just start by lining up the corner of this first flap, so this corner right here, with the corner of your top frame piece. So once that's in place, give it a good squeeze so it holds it down. And then you're just going to come over and line up the bottom corner, and then just make sure everything is adhered nicely to each together. So just squeeze that all together, just like that. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and come across. This is done a little bit easier if you can just put the whole card together and then just kind of lay it on top. Okay, so squeeze the two sides down and then just kind of bring it over and lay it on top. And this just kind of helps make sure that the card lays flat when it's in the envelope. It can be a little bit tricky. So I've folded both sides, held this side up with my right hand, and then as I kind of brought it down, adhered it, I kind of kept everything moving all the way down, okay? All right, so now those two pieces are moving freely in our fun shadow box card. So let's go ahead and decorate this card now. So for our greeting, we're gonna take that bottom strip and I'm gonna cut it at 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to stamp the greeting, "Let the adventure begin," in the center of that strip. And then take a pair of paper snips and just angle each side here, going at the same angle. All right, so to finish this card, we're going to add our stamped images to the front. So this first one I want to place is the tree, and I just have placed a little adhesive on the back. Then I'm going to tuck in some of the bushes behind the tree. So just got one of the Granny Apple greens, then one of the garden green, and then another Granny Apple green here at the bottom. So you're just kind of filling, make sure to cover that gap. And then I've got our greeting with a little bit of black twine, and that's just gonna go right in the center of the card with some dimensionals. Okay, so once you have all those images on there, you do want to trim off these extra sides to the tree, just so that it fits inside your envelope. You can just do that by using a pair of paper snips. And then your card is all done. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create this fun and unique shadow box card as an alternative to the July 2021 Paper Pumpkin Kit. If you're interested in seeing written instructions or close-up images, you can visit my blog, creativechelsey.com. If you're interested in subscribing to get your own Paper Pumpkin Kit, please use the link in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.